Have you ever stopped to think about what a product really costs? I don't just mean the cost to build it in a factory. I'm talking about the entire journey, from that first light bulb moment all the way to its final days on the shelf. Well, today we're pulling back the curtain on that hidden story.
So let me ask you this, and it might sound a little crazy. Is your company's star product, the one that's flying off the shelves, secretly a total failure? It sounds impossible, right? But you'd be surprised how often this happens. And it's usually because businesses are only looking at a tiny and frankly misleading piece of the puzzle.
You see, the old way of doing things, traditional accounting, can create this dangerous illusion. It's hyper-focused on manufacturing costs, what it takes to actually assemble the thing. But that completely ignores the millions spent on research, the massive marketing budget, the distribution, the customer service calls. When you leave all that out, you're not getting the real story on profitability, not even close.
So, how do we get the whole story? Well, that brings us to this really powerful idea called life cycle costing. Think of it as a way to see the complete financial biography of any product.
So what is it exactly? Life cycle costing is a long-term approach. It's all about tracking every single penny a product earns and every penny that's spent on it over its entire life. We're talking from the very first brainstorming session right up until it's retired for good.
Now, this whole journey has a name. It's called the value chain. It's literally every step that adds value to a product. And what life cycle costing does is force you to account for all of it. The research, the design, the marketing, and even the customer support calls years later.
We can actually break this chain into two big categories. First, you've got upstream costs. These are all the investments you pour in before a single product is even made. Think R&D, prototyping, and design. Then, on the other side, you have downstream costs. This is everything that happens after production, marketing, shipping, customer service. And here's the crucial part. A product isn't truly profitable unless its revenue covers both sides of that equation.
Products are kind of like people. They have a life cycle. And if we really want to understand their true cost, we have to follow them through every single stage of that life. So let's hop on the roller coaster and follow a product's journey.
You've probably seen a curve like this before, right? Sales start slow, they shoot up, they plateau, and then they fall. It's the classic product life cycle. But the key thing to notice here is that the story, the real financial story, starts way before that introduction phase. The costs start racking up long before anyone has a chance to buy it. So this journey typically unfolds across 5 distinct phases. We start with research and development, then move to introduction, growth, maturity, and finally decline. Okay, so the beginning is all about spending money. In R&D, you're pouring cash into an idea with absolutely zero sales. Then comes the introduction. Sales finally start to trickle in, but profits are tiny, maybe even negative, because you're spending a fortune on marketing and your production isn't efficient yet. You're basically paying just to get the thing off the ground. And then comes the fun part, the growth phase. Sales are finally taking off. Really climbing. And as you start making more and more, you get more efficient, and the cost to make each one starts to drop. This is your golden window. This is the moment where you have the absolute biggest opportunity to optimize everything and save a ton of money.
Of course, after that peak, things start to level off. You enter the maturity phase. Here, sales are still happening, but they're not growing like they were, mainly because the market is now flooded with competitors. And eventually, this leads into the decline phase, where both sales and competition start to fade away as everyone moves on to the next big thing.
So, we've seen the whole journey now. But here it is, the most important takeaway of this entire explainer. The biggest lever you have to make a product profitable. It's not where most people are looking.
It all comes down to a fundamental shift in mindset. The traditional approach is all about cost control, just trying to keep expenses in check during manufacturing. But life cycle costing is about cost reduction. It's about proactively designing a more profitable, more efficient product from the very first sketch.
Let this one sink in for a second. Your biggest chance to save money, to make your product a true financial success, happens in the design lab and the R&D meetings. It happens before a single machine on the factory floor is even turned on.
So why is that? It's because those early upstream decisions you make about what materials to use, which components to source, how it'll be assembled, those decisions effectively lock in the vast majority of all the costs that will ever be associated with that product. Choosing a slightly better part in the design phase might save you millions in downstream warranty claims and customer service headaches. That is the incredible power of taking the long view.
Okay, so what does all this actually mean in the real world? Well, when you start thinking this way, it leads to some seriously smart decisions and, you guessed it, a much healthier bottom line. Let's talk about the payoff.
Adopting this long-term view can totally transform a business. All of a sudden, you can set your prices with confidence because you know the total cost. You get an honest-to-goodness picture of a product's performance, which helps you avoid that trap of the bestseller that's secretly bleeding you dry. It can even make your customers happier because you're thinking about their total cost of ownership too.
Ultimately, this whole method forces you to ask the hard, honest questions. Was that massive R&D investment in a product that new technology made obsolete in just 1 year? Was that really a success? Traditional accounting might look at that one profitable year and say, yes. Life cycle costing gives you the much more sobering and much more accurate answer.
So the takeaway here isn't just for product managers or accountants. It's a powerful way of thinking for all of us. The next time you're facing a big decision, at work or in life, just ask yourself, what's the true, whole life cost of this choice? What are the upstream investments I'm making? And what are the downstream consequences I'll have to live with? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.